time to invite the children up for a message. So I'm feeling you all coming up and surrounding me with your love and your hugs and your presence. So thank you for joining me. This week, we get to talk about a special day, and it's called Ascension Day. And I know a lot of people probably haven't heard about that, but when I was growing up, the church that I went to was called Ascension Lutheran Church. So we knew about Ascension Day because we always had a worship service on that day. And Ascension Day is always, you can always count on that being the same day every year. It's not the same date on the calendar, but it's always the same day of the week because it's the 40th day after Easter. And the 40th day after Easter is always a Thursday. So this past Thursday was Ascension Day. And on Ascension Day, Jesus rises and is ascended up into heaven. So he's been with his disciples, remember, because after Easter, when he came and he was with us, and he was with the disciples all the time, and he was been with the disciples, and he's been talking to them, and he's been telling them, they've been being together, and they've been sharing about God's work and Jesus' life, right? And now Jesus is saying to the disciples, you know what? I have a job for you. Now it's going to be your turn to start to tell the stories that I've been telling you up to this point, because pretty soon I'm not going to be with you anymore. And the disciples were pretty sad when they were starting to think that Jesus might not be with them anymore. But then they realized that Jesus was giving them a gift. He was giving them the gift of being able to share the good news and to tell the story about Jesus. And that was really exciting. And so as Jesus was with his disciples on Ascension Day, when he was finished telling them what the good news is and what they could do, then he rose up into heaven. And it's kind of hard to visualize that, isn't it? Jesus rising. But we think about maybe a balloon. And a balloon that has helium in it rises up. And if you think about Jesus sort of like being the balloon, but he's filled with the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit takes him up into heaven. And then he's up in his home. And now the disciples are left. And they realize that now they can go out and share the good news about Jesus. And that's the same thing that we can do too, can't we? We can share the good news about Jesus. And it doesn't have to be just the pastor or adults that can share the good news about Jesus, but that you guys can do it too, can't you? There's no age limit on being able to share God's love. And so you've been in Sunday school, you've been around, you've heard the stories about Jesus, and they've been passed down to you, and now you can share those stories with other people too. So that's an exciting thing that we can do, to share God's love with other people. So let's think about Jesus. Now that Jesus has ascended up into heaven, now he's with us always, all around us. And we can always feel his love with us. And so we can share that. And there's so many ways that we can share God's love, if you think about it. And even if you can't go up to somebody and give them a hug like we would like to right now, there's so many other ways that you can share God's love. We can be creative, and you can write letters, or you can send pictures. You can help your neighbor from a distance. Maybe you could help sweep or mow the lawn. There's so many ways that we can share God's love. Bring food to the food pantry. We share the meals with our young people. There are all kinds of ways to share God's love. So think about that as you go on this week. Think about Jesus ascending into heaven and surrounding us with his love always. And think about ways that you can share that love and that message and that good news with the people around you. And maybe when you get done, drop me a little note and tell me how you shared God's love with somebody else this week. We'll see you next week.